On the 23rd of December 1944, a company of American paratroopers picks one man to walk out ahead of everybody else, alone, into a frozen Belgian forest full of dug-in German guns. His name is Melvin Biddle. He is a private first class who came to the outfit as a replacement, the quietest man in Company B. Then they do it again the next day. The reason his commander gave him was one line: "You were so lucky yesterday, we're going to use you again today." Roughly 20 hours out front across 2 days, and the worst of it, he survives by doing absolutely nothing at all. Most of what has been published about those 2 days recently is invented. But the strangest thing in this story is not what the fakes added. It is what the United States Army wrote down, and what Biddle himself said years later, sitting in a chair with a recorder running, when his own account did not match his citation. The German army has smashed through the Ardennes, and a week into the fighting, the whole front is a mess of broken units and frozen roads. In the middle of it sits Hotton, a small Belgian town on a river crossing, and the Germans have it encircled. Inside, the men holding the crossing are not a garrison. They are cooks, clerks, and drivers who picked up rifles because there was nobody else. They have been holding for 2 days. The men who have to break through and reach them are paratroopers of the 517th Parachute Infantry Regiment, attached to the 3rd Armored Division and pushing down from the village of Soy. The cold is deep enough to freeze the grease in a rifle bolt. Between Soy and Hotton lies thick forest, and somewhere in it sits Kampfgruppe Bayer of the 116th Panzer Division, dug in and waiting. These paratroopers have not come from a rest camp. 6 weeks earlier, they were on the Italian border, in the Maritime Alps, fighting a mountain war nobody back home was reading about. They came off that line in November, went north to Soissons in the first week of December to refit and take on replacements, and were still doing it when the Ardennes broke open. They reached Belgium on the 22nd. They are in the line the next day. Before the main body can move, somebody has to go out front and find those guns, one at a time, the hard way. The company's 2 lead scouts have already been hurt by a mine, so the job comes down to the quiet replacement, and the order is 2 words: Biddle, out front. He will hear that order 3 times in the next 36 hours. The question is not whether one private can kill enough Germans, it is how many times you can send the same man out ahead of everyone before the odds finally collect. He has already learned what the job costs. On his first day in combat, a sergeant standing near him was shot through the middle of his head. It was the same man who, an hour earlier, had opened a package from home and offered a share of it to a replacement nobody else would talk to. Men avoided replacements on purpose. They knew what usually happened to them. Biddle pushes into a densely wooded stretch, moving slow, reading the ground the way a good scout learns to. Every tree could hide a rifle. He covers around 400 yards before the trees open up on him with rifle fire. He does not fall back. He works in closer, close enough that the fight stops being about distance and becomes a matter of who sees who first. Within 20 yards, he finds them. He shoots the first. The second tries to shoot him, and he shoots him too. The third one runs, and Biddle hits him in the shoulder, and the man keeps going, and he hits him in the shoulder again, and the man still keeps going. The citation would later say he killed 3 snipers with unerring marksmanship. His own account says 3 men at an outpost, 2 down, and 1 who walked away shot twice. He never corrected the record in public. He simply told it differently when somebody finally asked him. That gap between the paperwork and the man is the whole reason to listen to him. Decades later, an old man in a chair is asked how close they were. He looks at the person sitting across from him and measures it out loud. "No farther than from me to you. 3 men, near enough to reach out and touch, in undergrowth, with a semi-automatic Garand and nobody behind him." Biddle keeps moving. 200 yards deeper into the German positions, he finds a machine gun crew set up in the trees and dispatches both men working it. Then a second gun, better hidden. He works forward on his belly and throws grenades into it, killing 2 Germans and mortally wounding a third. He signals the company forward, moves into the German defensive line itself, coolly shifts his position and shoots 3 more men. A dug-in machine gun is the king of that forest. It can sweep a whole lane of trees and pin a company flat with nothing but the threat of what it will do to the first man who stands. When Biddle finds the third one, he does the only thing that works out here. He crawls forward over frozen ground until barely 20 yards separate him from a weapon that can cut a man in half. He has 1 grenade left. No flanking maneuver, no support. He throws it, and the second it goes off, he is up and charging the position with his rifle firing. It is one scared man betting his life on a single grenade and a fast rush across open ground. And the bet pays off. The nest goes silent. 2 channels have published big videos about this fight. One of them moves the whole story to a ridgeline in the Vosges Mountains of eastern France in November 1944. Wrong month, wrong country, and a place the 517th never fought. That autumn, the regiment was in the Maritime Alps on the Italian border, 400 miles away. It then reads out a Medal of Honor citation that does not exist, hands him 33 prisoners he never took, and has the medal presented in December 1944 by a general who never presented it. The other channel gets the date and the place right, and then invents the rest. A minute-by-minute clock, snipers 87 feet up in trees, a wound on the 30th of December, when Biddle himself said the 3rd of January. What neither of them does is stay with his own account when it disagrees with the paperwork. Keep that in mind, it matters later. Strip all of it away and look at what is left standing. 1 man, out ahead of his company, calmly finding and killing the crews that would otherwise have torn his friends to pieces the moment they advanced. And the hardest part of his story has not even started, because out over those trees, the winter sun is already going down. When the light fails, the order comes a second time. Biddle, out front. Most soldiers would count themselves lucky to have survived the daylight. Instead, he is sent crawling into the black to map where the German guns and men are sitting, so the dawn attack can use every bit of it. He does it alone again, feeling his way through the trees for hours. Then his captain wants a prisoner. A live German would hand the battalion a gold mine, so Biddle takes 2 men and goes to get one. What happens next is not in any citation. A German officer comes down the road, walking like he is on parade. Biddle's friend challenges him, so quietly that Biddle can barely hear it himself, and the German plainly does not. Then the friend fires and misses. The officer pulls his pistol, fires twice, and misses too. Then he shouts something into the dark at the 2 Americans, and both of them run. Biddle runs the wrong way, not back toward his own lines, but deeper into the German ones. All at once, he is not scouting the enemy positions from the safe edge of them, he is inside them, in the dark, surrounded. So he does the only thing left. He drops flat and goes utterly still. German soldiers move around him in the black. They come close enough that he can hear the hobnails in their boots, close enough to catch the low murmur of them talking to each other. At one point, a pair of those boots passes within inches of his outstretched hand. The men wearing them keep right on talking, never once looking down at the dark shape lying beside their feet. He cannot run, because running means a bullet in the back within seconds. He cannot fire, because the muzzle flash would light him up and end it just as fast. Charging a gun is motion, and motion is its own anesthetic. This is the opposite. Death walks back and forth past his hand, and every instinct he owns is screaming at him to get up and run. Hours crawl past exactly like that. The cold works its way into him first through the boots, then the knees, then everywhere at once. His muscles cramp and lock from holding a single position, and he cannot allow himself so much as to roll over and relieve it. A shiver he cannot stop would be enough. A cough would be enough. He lies there doing the arithmetic every soldier does in the dark, counting the minutes, then losing the count, then starting again. At some point, the machine guns open up from both directions, his own and theirs, and the whole position crackles and flashes over the top of him. He is lying in the middle of a firefight being conducted by both sides at once, and the safest thing he can do is nothing. And he is not only surviving, he is watching. Half-tracks and tanks are moving on the road in front of him, more armor than he has words for. The way he described it later, it looked like Berlin. Somewhere around 3 or 4 in the morning, he finally starts to move. He crawls the way a man crawls when a single sound can kill him, slow and low, until the German voices fall away behind him. What he brings back out is not just his own life. A scout's report is not a story, it is a list of coordinates, and the value of it is that somebody else no longer has to find those positions the expensive way. Everything Biddle watched go down that road in the dark becomes the morning's target list. Gun positions the attack would otherwise have discovered by walking into them. Armor whose location nobody on the American side had been able to fix. The infantry and the tanks behind him use what he brings back to knock out 2 German tanks before those tanks can be used on anyone. Knowing where a tank sits before you commit is the difference between a clean shot and a burning column of your own men. He spent a night lying in the dirt to buy that difference, and he bought it for people who never knew he was out there. At daybreak, after lying for hours inside the German line with death walking past his hand, the order comes a 3rd time. Biddle, out front. He expected to be spared after the night he had. He was not. The way he remembered it, the reason he was given was not trust, and it was not tactics. You were so lucky yesterday. We're going to use you again today. The attack moves, then stalls hard when the units on his flanks are pinned by fire they cannot locate. So Biddle goes and finds the gun himself. From about 50 yards out, he kills the crew running it and the 2 riflemen backing them up, and the advance tears loose and rolls forward again. He did not free Hotton. He pried the door open, and the men and the tanks stacked up behind him poured through it. 10 days later, the war is still going without him, because a shell is about to find Melvin Biddle. On the 3rd of January, at a place he called Saint-Jacques, a shell fragment tears into his neck. He said only that he got hit. It was the hospital in England that told him the rest, that the fragment had missed his jugular by about half a centimeter. A little over, and there is no medal, no interview, no story at all, just another name on a list. Once he has been treated, he finds out something strange. A man from his own outfit is telling a story to whoever will listen in the ward, and he turns to the quiet patient beside him and asks whether he has heard about that fellow who killed all those Germans up there. Biddle says no. The man then tells him they have put that fellow in for the Medal of Honor. He is lying in a hospital bed, listening to a soldier from his own company tell him his own night, second hand, already growing in the telling, without ever once connecting the story to the man in the next bed. The exaggeration did not begin on the internet. It had already reached his bedside in 1945, and it has never stopped since. The medal comes on the 12th of October, 1945, on the White House lawn. Truman decorates 15 men that morning, and Biddle stands in a line that includes Desmond Doss and Nicholas Oresco. The written order catches up 2.5 weeks later, and that later date is why you will sometimes see the ceremony misdated. Truman put the ribbon around his neck and said something he said to the whole group that morning, and that Biddle remembered for the rest of his life. "I would much rather have that medal than be President of the United States." The written citation, when it finally arrived, was 400 words of official English. It said he displayed conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity. It said he killed 3 snipers with unerring marksmanship. It said he silenced machine gun after machine gun, that he scouted enemy positions alone for several hours, that at daybreak he again led the advance. It is accurate, and it is a document, and it does what documents do. It flattens a frightened young man into a sequence of verified acts. He lived with that paper for 65 years. He died in December of 2010. Somewhere in between, he sat down in front of a recorder and told it his way instead, including the parts the citation had tidied up, like the third man at the outpost who took 2 rounds in the shoulder and kept walking. Years later, an interviewer asked him why he did it. Biddle did not talk about the medal, or the guns, or the 3 men at arm's length. He said that he had always had a feeling that he could not let his friends down, that the men in Company B had been good to him when nobody had to be, and that you simply cannot let those kind of people down. That is the whole thing. Every gun he found was a lane of fire that never opened on the men walking behind him. That is the quiet math of what a scout is really for. He went first so that nobody else had to, and then spent the rest of his life listening to other people tell his story back to him, bigger every time, and quietly insisting he was not the man in it. The true story is smaller and closer than the invented ones, and that is exactly why it lands so hard. One replacement private with enemy boots grinding past inches from his hand, crawling back out at 4 in the morning while the men who could kill him talk right over his head. Biddle out front. He went 3 times. For more from the archive, make sure you're subscribed.